Hey guys, tonight we drift gently into the serene world of Byzantium, where candlelight flickers across golden mosaics and the whispers of history guide our thoughts. Tonight, we step softly into the lives of Zoe and Theodora, sisters who would one day shape an empire. Imagine the quiet glow of a hearth and the rhythm of distant waves outside the great walls of Constantinople. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, I would love to know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now, so please share in the comments below. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The city breathes slowly, as if each stone has absorbed centuries of footsteps. The air carries faint scents, baking bread, richly dyed wool, and a hint of sea salt from the Bosphorus. Overhead, birds scatter in looping arcs, their calls echoing against domes, then fading until only a deep, calm silence remains. This silence is not empty. It hums with possibility, the sound of a civilization unhurried, as though eternity belongs to its towers. You pass under an archway, and a guard leans casually against stone. His spear rests lightly by his shoulder, and his eyes are heavy with calm, focused more on his own breathing than any threat. The empire has weathered storms, yet tonight the guard allows himself to float in the stillness. You might quietly joke that he is guarding the empire with the same dedication as someone watching a loaf of bread cool on a windowsill. The thought makes you smile before it dissolves like mist in the warm evening air. As you approach the palace district, sounds grow even softer. You almost hear the rustle of silk curtains stirred by a breeze, though the windows are closed. The scent of beeswax candles drifts gently, mingling with traces of incense from the chapel. Shadows stretch across mosaic floors, forming paths that look like liquid gold. You pause at a corner, letting your eyes wander over intricate designs. A crouching lion waits eternally. A vine curls in delicate precision. You wonder if these patterns help hold the memory of the empire together, like a bookmark preserves a place in a story. Within these walls lived Zoe and Theodora, daughters of emperors, sisters of destiny. Born into privilege, their lives would reveal that even the most carefully guarded palaces cannot protect against uncertainty. For now, imagine them as children playing in a courtyard filled with fountains, their laughter blending with splashing water on marble basins. Sunlight filters through vine-covered pergolas, painting stripes of shade on their dresses. You can almost see the way they look at each other, one curious, one cautious, both aware that their future is larger than their small games suggest. Nearby, an old tutor walks slowly, reciting fragments of Greek poetry. The girls listen half-heartedly, more fascinated by the breeze lifting pages of his scroll. The tutor smiles knowingly, aware that wisdom sometimes seeps in quietly, through play and wandering attention. You imagine him gently joking that memorizing verses is easier when you're not chasing pigeons across the courtyard. Walking further through the palace complex, you realize the empire itself feels like a living body. The walls are bones, the gardens its breath, the chapels the beating heart. Every step echoes those of countless others, soldiers, scribes, nobles, servants. The space is never truly empty. It remembers, and you are now part of its long song. You pause at a balcony overlooking the city. Constantinople stretches before you in layers of rooftops, domes, and towers, reaching toward the sea. The light is soft, turning stone into something gentle. Smoke rises from distant hearths, curling lazily, unwilling to leave the comfort of home. Ships rest quietly in the harbor, sails furled like sleeping wings. Somewhere, a bell tolls slowly, each strike rolling like a wave through the streets. The sound deepens the peace, reminding you that time flows here like honey, thick and golden. From this vantage point, you think of the sisters again. They will one day stand here, gazing outward, weighing their choices. History tells us that Zoe would marry 3 emperors, shaping her authority through each union. Theodora would step forward as a woman of unwavering principle, commanding respect through dignity. Yet, in this quiet first glimpse, they remain untouched by politics. They are part of the city's dream, like stars waiting to emerge at twilight. You move gently along the balustrade, feeling the marble's smoothness beneath your fingers. Its surface has been touched by countless hands, almost silky to the touch. A servant passes with a tray of figs, their sweet scent lingering briefly. He nods politely before continuing, perhaps already thinking of the coolest corner in the palace for a midday rest. As dusk approaches, the city glows with warmth rising from within. Lamps are lit one by one, scattering small circles of light across courtyards and arcades. The soft notes of a lyre drift from somewhere unseen, slow, gentle, and steady. Leaning against a column, you close your eyes and let the melody seep into your mind. It is neither triumphant nor sorrowful. It simply exists, a companion to your breathing. In that stillness, the empire feels eternal, a place where past and present melt together like wax near a flame. Night gathers softly, wrapping the palace in a mantle of quiet. You think again of Zoe and Theodora, not as figures carved into history, but as young women preparing for lives they cannot yet imagine. Their story waits patiently, like stone, ready to unfold with each passing moment. You breathe slowly, feeling calm spread through you like water filling a vessel. Byzantium, in its twilight glow, has begun to weave its gentle spell. The sisters wait in the shadows, the city stretching in quiet beauty. Let the image linger. Golden light, marble halls, a breeze carrying incense and song. History is not rushing you. It invites you to rest in its embrace, to walk at its pace, one slow heartbeat at a time. And so, our first step into the Byzantine world ends, leaving you in quiet wonder. With Zoe and Theodora waiting, with Constantinople bathed in soft light, you pause and let the city's story drift into your imagination. This is Byzantium at twilight, a gentle empire of memory, breath, and the slow, eternal rhythm of life. The first glow of morning touches Constantinople like a whisper across the horizon, soft and deliberate. The city seems to stretch slowly, as if reluctant to leave the embrace of night. You wander through streets still drowsy from darkness, noticing the gentle rhythm of life waking. Bakers begin to knead dough, their hands moving in a steady, almost meditative cadence. The faint clatter of wooden bowls and the soft scrape of blades against stone echo through narrow alleys, where cats stretch and yawn, arching their backs in the first light. The scent of warm bread curls into the air, mixing with hints of salt from the Bosphorus, and for a moment the world feels suspended between slumber and action. There is no hurry here. Time rises as deliberately as the sun climbing above the domes of Hagia Sophia. One might smile quietly, imagining that the pigeons on the rooftops follow a stricter morning schedule than half the nobles in the palace. Ahead, the vast silhouette of Hagia Sophia looms, serene and monumental. Its domes and arches catch the pale light, glowing faintly as though the stones themselves remember centuries of triumph and calamity. You recall that this magnificent structure had once been reduced to ashes after the Nika riots of 532, a conflagration that seemed to erase not only a building, but a part of the city's spirit. And yet, from that devastation, it rose again resilient, enduring, a symbol woven into the very fabric of the empire. Standing here, you inhale slowly, letting the weight of its story settle like morning dew, filling the chest with quiet awe. As you step closer, you notice workmen moving with careful purpose, polishing stone, repairing mosaics, attending to details both grand and small. Their tools create a gentle clinking, a sound that feels less like labor than the heartbeat of the city itself. In this careful restoration, Hagia Sophia is more than marble and mortar. It is a promise that Byzantium can endure, can rise from ruin. You imagine Zoe and Theodora as children, perhaps peeking from behind columns, gazing up at this towering dome. Even then, though they could not yet know the trials ahead, they might have felt the quiet assurance that life, like the city around them, could rebuild itself, beautiful and strong, after every fire. The streets around the basilica stir with vendors carrying baskets of fruit, fabrics, and oils. A woman arranges figs neatly in a row, each one glistening with morning light. You notice how her gestures carry both care and repetition, the sort of rhythm that builds civilizations quietly, one small act at a time. Someone might laugh softly at how these figs look more dignified than certain courtiers who spend hours fussing over their robes. The humor is gentle, the kind that warms rather than stirs. You pause near a fragment of the old wall, its stones darkened by centuries. Stories whisper that treasures may be hidden deep inside these walls, concealed during times of invasion or unrest. Some say chests of coins remain bricked away, waiting for hands that will never come. Others believe relics, wrapped in faded cloth, lie silent within the cracks. You smile at the thought that perhaps a simple loaf of stale bread was hidden too, preserved so well that future historians might mistake it for a sacred artifact. The mystery rests quietly, part of the city's unspoken memory. Beyond the basilica, the streets widen into squares where fountains shimmer in the first light. Water spills gently from carved spouts, catching the sun like liquid glass. Children gather near, their laughter soft, blending with the murmurs of parents arranging goods. The square breathes like a gentle tide, each sound folding into another. You hear the clip of hooves, the rustle of fabrics, the distant call of a priest. Yet nothing feels overwhelming. Instead, it is as if the city orchestrates its waking with the calm of a lullaby. The sisters are still unseen in this moment, but you sense their presence in the air. Zoe, with her gaze toward beauty and order, might have admired the mosaics glowing within Hagia Sophia. Theodora, steady and devout, might have paused to feel the sacred hum beneath its stones. Their lives are intertwined with this city, not just as rulers, but as witnesses of its quiet rebirths. The walls, the streets, and even the whispers of hidden treasures seem to know them already. A breeze flows gently from the harbor, carrying the scent of salt and tar from ships tied close to the docks. You hear the creak of ropes and the soft slap of water against wood. Sailors stretch and mutter, their voices thick from sleep, their movements slow. The sea trade will soon awaken too, bringing goods from distant lands. But for now, it is only the beginning, and the quiet carries more weight than noise. You think that if ships could yawn, this would be the sound they make. You return your gaze to the domes of Hagia Sophia, its curves rising with grace against the brightening sky. The basilica feels eternal, yet it also reminds you that everything can be broken and rebuilt. Cuc SPGA vien contran luenvea viac. How much of the original intention of its builders survives in the structure we see today? Some believe it is purely a monument to faith. Others insist it is just as much a monument to power. You simply stand in the morning light, allowing both truths to rest side by side, neither urgent nor demanding. The city stirs, yet it does not hurry you. You move slowly along its streets, letting the scents of fresh bread, sea salt, and beeswax mingle in your senses. Every sound, the soft clatter of a baker's tool, the distant cry of a gull, the rustle of silk curtains, feels part of a long, unhurried symphony. Light shifts gently across domes and marble, painting patterns that seem to remember centuries. Each step you take brushes against the surface of a dream where history flows like water and memory holds firm like stone. Zoe and Theodora will one day walk these streets with quiet resolve, shaped by the endurance of the city and the stories embedded in its walls. For now you pause, letting Constantinople stretch slowly, calmly into the day. You step softly into the palace library, where the air is heavy with the mingled scents of beeswax, aged parchment, and quiet anticipation. The space is dim, lit by a scattering of candles that flicker against polished shelves and gilded carvings, their flames casting long, slow shadows that dance across the floor. Each shelf rises like a sentinel, guarding centuries of knowledge. You pause and inhale deeply, tasting the faint aroma of old ink and leather-bound tomes, a fragrance that seems to hold time itself, preserved like a delicate relic. It strikes you that if wisdom could have a scent, this would be it, one unattainable outside these walls. Zoe moves among the shelves with a grace born of both her rank and her curiosity. Draped in silks that catch the candlelight, she is a princess not only in title, but in her hunger for understanding. Scrolls and codices stretch endlessly along the walls, their texts whispering the thoughts of philosophers, scientists, poets, and theologians long gone. Tutors guide her quietly, pointing out passages from Aristotle and Galen, weaving instruction into patient, deliberate conversation. Occasionally, their soft voices rise and fall, reciting passages by candlelight, each word measured and unhurried, as if the rhythm of learning itself mirrors the slow heartbeat of the empire. Here, in the hush of polished wood and flickering light, knowledge feels alive, as though the past is breathing alongside you. You watch Zoe, aware that these quiet hours, filled with ink and candlelight, are shaping her into a mind as enduring as the empire that surrounds her. A scribe nearby copies a text, his quill scratching softly like the sound of tiny footsteps across stone. His ink glistens weightily before drying into permanence. You wonder how many mistakes have been carefully scraped away, how many lines rewritten before the words felt secure. The act is slow, deliberate, and nearly meditative. Watching him, you imagine how Zoe must have learned to find patience in the process, just as she would need patience to endure the politics of her later years. The scribe might laugh quietly if you asked him for faster handwriting, but he would remind you that speed is never the goal. The library itself seems alive. The shelves hum gently, and the walls breathe stories. You run your hand over a volume bound in leather, cool beneath your fingertips. Somewhere, a candle sputters and hisses, and the flame steadies again. The entire room feels like a cocoon, a place where the outside world waits politely at the threshold. In such a space, Zoe's mind stretched outward, beyond palace routines, toward the wide realms of philosophy, medicine, and even astrology. Historians still debate how deeply Zoe studied the sciences, yet they agree she had more than a passing interest. The thought of astrology catches you. Some chronicles suggest Zoe consulted the stars, hoping to glimpse the pattern of her future. Others hint she may have dabbled in the healing arts, learning recipes of herbs and balms from volumes long since lost. You picture her holding a small vial of oil, weighing its meaning in her hand, not only for health, but for power. Knowledge is never neutral in an empire. It always leans toward influence. You smile at the idea that perhaps she mixed a potion only to find it smelled so bad that even the bravest courtier refused to drink it. As you walk further down the hall, the quiet deepens. The library feels endless, as if its corridors fold back upon themselves. The flickering candlelight stretches shadows across mosaic floors, creating moving patterns that resemble constellations. You pause to admire how the floor seems to mirror the night sky, as though the library itself wanted to remind Zoe that the universe could be studied both above and below. The silence carries the weight of countless hours spent in contemplation, in turning pages with deliberate care. Zoe's education in these halls was more than the reading of texts. It was an initiation into the empire's legacy, a recognition that knowledge could be as sharp as any sword. The empire relied on order, and the library provided the structure of that order through written wisdom. Every emperor and empress who entered these doors inherited the responsibility to carry those ideas forward. You sense that Zoe absorbed this lesson, not only with her mind, but with her very breath, each inhale drawing in the patient strength of Byzantium's learning. A servant enters quietly, carrying a tray with warm wine and honey. He sets it upon a low table, his footsteps muffled against thick carpets. He does not linger, for he knows that even in service, silence is the greatest courtesy here. You imagine Zoe pausing from her study to sip, the warmth loosening her shoulders, the sweetness encouraging her thoughts to flow. The wine itself becomes part of the education, teaching that comfort can support focus, and that even rulers need moments of softness. You might joke that philosophers probably wrote half their theories while distracted by sweet drinks. Outside, faint bells toll the passing of hours. Yet inside the library, time feels unmeasured. Candle wax drips slowly, creating rivers of light that solidify into tiny sculptures on the table. A breeze stirs from a high window, carrying with it the distant sound of the city awakening further. Still, the library keeps its calm, unaffected by noise or change. You sit with the sisters here in spirit, sensing that their education was not about memorization alone, but about absorbing the empire's rhythm. Patient, deliberate, enduring. You linger in the soft candlelight, letting the quiet weight of the library settle around you like a protective cloak. Zoe moves among the shelves with gentle purpose. Each page she turns, each lesson she absorbs, adding to the quiet strength growing within her. The air hums with the patience of centuries, and you sense that these moments, so still, so deliberate, are shaping the woman she will one day become. As you step toward the door, the flickering flames seem to bow in gentle farewell, swaying with a tender rhythm. You leave carrying the image of Zoe among the tomes and the enduring thought that knowledge, like light, shines brightest when embraced in silence. You step into a great hall filled with the gentle haze of incense. The fragrance rises in slow, curling ribbons, drifting toward ceilings carved with golden mosaics that shimmer faintly in the dim candlelight. Each breath carries resin's sweetness and the faint sting of charcoal, calming as if the hall itself wishes to ease your mind. The scent lingers softly in your chest, steady and soothing. You think idly that if such incense were sold today, it might be called Imperial calm, extra long-lasting. Each inhalation feels deliberate, like the city itself is guiding you to slow your pace and notice the subtleties of light and shadow. Theodora stands among the marble columns, her presence dignified yet understated. Known for her devotion and solemnity, she commands respect quietly, without spectacle. Her gaze seems to reach beyond the walls, listening to whispers that others cannot perceive. Those near her unconsciously match her rhythm, slowing their breathing in response to her serene authority. Attendants move softly around her, careful not to disturb the atmosphere she carries. Her composure seems woven into the air itself, as if the hall bends around her tranquility. Theodora wears serenity like a garment, one that radiates calm, yet bears the weight of unwavering discipline. The effect is subtle, but unmistakable to anyone present. From a distant chapel, choirs begin their chant. Their voices echo through marble halls, soft yet resonant, like waves brushing gently against the shore. You pause, letting the sound fold over you, rhythmic and steady. Theodora often sought solace in such chants, finding strength not only in ritual, but in the gentle, ordered patterns of devotion. Her calm is not passive. It carries authority. Stories tell of her perception, moments where she sensed unrest or shifts in loyalty long before they reached the palace. Chroniclers attributed to her an almost prophetic intuition, sharpened by her contemplative life. Even in silence, she communicated power, a presence that shaped events quietly but decisively. You imagine her pausing mid-prayer, eyes lifted, and declaring with calm certainty, "The city feels restless today." A courtier might reply hesitantly, "Perhaps the kitchens ran out of honey cakes again." The juxtaposition draws a smile, but it also hints at her composed awareness. She notices every detail, from the spiritual to the mundane, and holds it with the same steady hand. The history of her reverence is stitched into these incense-filled halls. She championed the Orthodox faith, reinforcing the unity of the Church at times when divisions threatened to weaken the empire. Her choices were not made hastily, but carved slowly, like inscriptions upon marble. Every prayer, every candle lit, every whispered chant played a role in shaping her reputation. The faithful saw her as a figure of stability, one who reflected divine order in human form. The scent of incense was not decoration. It was the breath of her authority. You walk further into the hall, each step softened by carpets woven with intricate patterns. Shadows stretch across the floor, bending and folding as the curling incense drifts above them. Near a brazier, you pause, watching small grains of resin scatter onto glowing coals. They hiss and crackle gently, dissolving into fragrant smoke that rises like a living whisper. The fire seems almost sentient, telling its own story, each crackle echoing the pulse of an empire, steady, enduring, patient. Theodora moves with quiet grace, her presence subtle but commanding. At one side of the hall, a priest stands with hands folded, lips moving in silent prayer. Sometimes she joins these rituals, not for show, but for discipline, blending devotion with observation. She is one among many, yet her posture, calm and unwavering, marks her as someone who balances authority with reverence. The juxtaposition of her silk robes and whispered devotion is striking. It shapes perception. A ruler who bows before the eternal, yet remains grounded in the worldly affairs she must navigate. Her humility is not weakness, but a carefully measured strength, giving her a presence that feels anchored in both faith and power. Observers sense this, even if only subconsciously, and are drawn into her rhythm. You think wryly that even a ruler who prays might still impose taxes or make harsh decrees. Yet in her silent discipline, there is a kind of gentle accountability, a reminder of the weight of duty. Standing there, enveloped in smoke, sound, and shadow, you feel the paradox of Theodora, stern yet serene, commanding yet contemplative, a woman whose power flows quietly, like incense curling upward, shaping the air itself. The hall stretches long and wide, echoing faintly with the shuffle of distant footsteps. The incense never fades. It seems to regenerate with every breath of the people present. This constant fragrance is not overwhelming, but rather steady, like the gentle repetition of a lullaby. You linger in this rhythm, letting your senses slow until each detail feels magnified. The soft gleam of candlelight on a chalice, the faint rustle of fabric when someone shifts their weight, the almost inaudible sigh of a draft moving across the floor. Theodora's role in these halls was never merely ceremonial. Every gesture, every measured step, carried weight. Her devotion strengthened her authority, especially in moments when her legitimacy might have wavered. Faith became both shield and statement, incense its visible proof, ritual its outward form. One might wonder how much of her spirituality was heartfelt belief, and how much a careful exercise of political necessity. Yet even the question fades in the presence of her calm. That stillness, deliberate and assured, radiates across the centuries, a quiet testament to her discipline and purpose. You breathe in slowly, letting the incense curl gently around you, subtle and unhurried. Theodora's presence mirrors it, quiet, steady, shaping the hall without force. Each rising spiral of smoke carries prayers and memory, touching marble corridors and flickering candles. Courtiers feel her calm authority, reverence blooming in silence. As you step away, the stillness lingers, entwined with the empire itself, resilient and patient. Power need not shout to endure. In her devotion and the gentle fragrance, Byzantium breathes, serene and unbroken, a timeless testament to discipline, faith, and quiet strength. You step into a marble corridor where sound seems to bend and soften. Each footfall lands lightly, yet the polished stone carries faint echoes, a rhythm more of presence than motion. The air is cool, infused with the stillness of centuries. Sunlight drifts gently through arched windows, tracing slow, deliberate paths across the veins of marble. Dust seems almost reluctant to settle here, hovering in quiet devotion to the harmony of the halls. You might even imagine that the cobwebs observe their own unspoken imperial standards, hanging perfectly straight and patient. This corridor is one Zoe knew intimately. Her sandals brushed softly against the stone as she moved between chambers, her footsteps measured yet full of life. Laughter once bounced along these walls in her youth, soft and bright, while contemplative silence settled here during moments of reflection. Over time, the halls witnessed her determination as she grew into a woman of quiet strength and cunning. History recalls Zoe not merely for her beauty, but for the force with which she shaped her world, weaving influence through intelligence, charm, and strategy. Zoe's life was marked by her 3 imperial marriages. She first wed Romanos III, an alliance that brought both opportunity and challenge, drawing her into the intricate dance of courtly power. Later, she married Michael IV, cementing her presence at the center of Byzantine authority. Finally, her union with Constantine IX further reinforced her role as a fixture on the throne. Each marriage was never only personal. It was deeply political, intertwining her fate with the empire's fortunes and the shifting allegiances of the court. Through these unions, Zoe became not merely a companion to emperors, but a constant, formidable presence, guiding and shaping the course of the empire herself. The marble corridors remember her footsteps still, echoes of laughter, resolve, and quiet authority lingering in the air like a soft, unbroken song of power. The corridors whisper with that continuity. They remind you that Zoe survived transitions that could have erased her, that she managed to remain not on the margins, but at the center. Her footsteps, whether quiet or resolute, trace the endurance of her role. You sense that each echo in these halls carries her persistence, a reminder that power can be both delicate and immovable. You might joke that her marriages were less about romance and more about updating the empire's leadership team, like installing a new version of the same software. The uncertainty of choice remains a mystery. Some chroniclers suggest Zoe acted with deliberate strategy, choosing her partners with precision to maintain control. Others hint that fate simply carried her along, that she accepted what was presented rather than shaping it herself. Cuc spga vian contran luan via viac. Whether Zoe steered her course or floated within it, the truth may rest somewhere in between, where human will and historical tide meet in quiet compromise. As you continue, the corridor opens into niches lined with statues. Their eyes, carved in stone, follow you softly. Each figure seems both watchful and patient, as though they have seen centuries of rulers pass without surprise. Zoe herself might have paused here, glancing at these reminders of lineage, feeling both comfort and pressure. The stone gazes tell her that empires outlast individuals, yet her footsteps insisted she would not be forgotten. You touch the cool marble yourself, sensing the calm endurance it holds. Farther along, the corridor bends into a small alcove where windows look out upon the gardens. The air carries a faint fragrance of flowers, light and fleeting. Zoe may have paused here often, to breathe, to think, or simply to stand between the weight of politics and the quiet of nature. The shift from incense-heavy halls to the delicate scent of blossoms marks a gentle transition, one that might have given her a moment of clarity. You wonder whether she considered her marriages here, reflecting not only on power, but on the peculiar mixture of duty and destiny. The humor is soft. Perhaps she sighed and thought, at least the roses never argue about succession. Your steps continue down the length of the corridor, where every surface seems designed to calm the eye. Patterns in the marble floor repeat with subtle precision, guiding you forward as though the building itself wishes to walk with you. The sister's story continues here, especially Zoe's, as she balanced her role through marriages that secured her position. The very architecture feels like a mirror of that balance. Intricate, deliberate, always aware of how each line contributes to the whole. The corridors have witnessed far more than mere footsteps. They have absorbed whispered confidences, promises exchanged at dawn, and crucial decisions forged under pressure. Yet now they hold no sense of urgency, only a steady, enduring calm. You pause, letting each echo of movement drift away, until the hall feels empty and absolute, a vessel of quiet reflection. In this stillness, Zoe's presence lingers as a testament to resilience, shaped as much by circumstance as by deliberate choice. The marble itself seems to remember her, and the rhythm of her steps, long vanished, continues to soothe the Empire's collective memory. As you move to the corridor's end, your gaze rests on a solitary column, its surface gently illuminated by filtered light. Creams melt into soft gold, and veins of marble trace themselves like subtle rivers, as though the stone itself carries the echo of a life lived with purpose. You inhale slowly, attuned to the hush around you, sensing how Zoe once navigated this same passage, blending patience with quiet authority. Each measured step she took was a study in discretion and power, an intimate performance observed by none but the walls themselves. The choices she made may remain shrouded in mystery, but their impact resonates still. In the serene arc of the corridor, her story unfolds not in grandeur or proclamation, but in the quiet endurance of presence. Marble and shadow, light and silence become vessels for memory, each holding a trace of her life and influence. Here, in this calm embrace, Zoe's legacy is tangible. It is patience rendered visible, strength rendered subtle, and an empire's long memory carried forward through the unassuming, enduring rhythm of footsteps that once commanded attention without ever needing to speak. You step into the Hippodrome, and for a moment, the city beyond seems to vanish. The vast arena unfolds before you, its stone tiers rising like frozen waves, emptied of the thunderous cheers that once defined them. Morning light streams through the arches, soft and gentle, illuminating worn surfaces and weathered edges. Where thousands once roared, only the wind moves, carrying faint whispers of past excitement. The emptiness is not void. It is a calm preserved in stone, a measured pause in Constantinople's pulse. Each step across the cool marble feels intentional, the sound softened beneath your feet. The ground is polished by centuries of passage, yet it retains memory, the pounding of hooves, the rhythmic charge of chariots, the collective roar of crowds. Even in silence, the Hippodrome remembers itself as a living arena, once vibrant with human energy and ambition. The wind drifts through the arches, curling in subtle spirals, almost musical in its cadence. It whispers across the spina, the central barrier that once gleamed with statues, obelisks, and treasures brought from distant lands. Time has dulled its brilliance, but the artistry remains, carrying stories of triumph, loyalty, and lives shaped by rivalry. Pausing near a stone tier, your gaze rises to empty seats that once held merchants, soldiers, noblewomen, and sailors. Their presence lingers, a faint chorus layered with anticipation, tension, and delight. Though the arena is still, its energy clings like a thin veil, waiting for memory to stir it again. More than a site of sport, the Hippodrome was the city's heartbeat, where power and politics converged. The blues and greens raced for more than victory. They shaped opinion and influence. Crowds swelled, emperors waved, and unrest often flared as sharply as cheers. The stones of this stadium remember both jubilation and discord. You picture Zoe returning to power, not by palace intrigue alone, but by the will of the people who gathered here. Their voices, restless and determined, carried her name across the arena, demanding her restoration. This space, once a theater of spectacle, became a crucible of authority, a reminder that even emperors must reckon with the hearts of their citizens. Power was enacted as much by shouts in the stands as by proclamations in marble halls. The air carries a faint scent of dust and sun-warmed stone. You breathe it in, letting it mingle with the distant memory of sweat, incense, and excitement. It is a subtle perfume, not commanding, yet evocative. You imagine how the crowd, surging like a living river, might have felt under the sun, hands raised, chants rising in unison, shaping destinies with nothing but voice and presence. You move slowly along the arena floor. The crunch of gravel and stone beneath your sandals feels intimate, connecting you with countless footsteps before yours. The ground seems to echo, faintly replaying hooves and heels, whispers and murmurs, as if the Hippodrome itself cannot forget its own vitality. Each grain of sand, each groove in stone, holds history, waiting for a visitor to notice its depth. The spina commands your gaze. Once crowned with statues of heroes, gods, and trophies from distant lands, it runs along the arena's length like a silent spine. Time has softened its brilliance, yet the artistry endures. You trace the grooves with your fingers, imagining the hands that carved them, the eyes that admired each detail, and the pulse of energy during every race. The blues and greens shaped more than sport. They shaped the city itself. Some accounts claim they fueled political unrest, pushing for Zoe's return. Others suggest the populace acted spontaneously, rising in collective will when opportunity arrived. How deep factional loyalties ran, or how much influence they truly wielded, remains unclear. Yet these stones hold the debate, whispering through arches and shadows. A marble bench invites you to sit, its surface cool beneath your hand. Merchants, soldiers, sailors, noblewomen, and children once shared these spaces, their voices blending into a living chorus. The energy of the crowd could elevate an emperor or undo one. Zoe's restoration illustrates this. She was lifted and humbled by the very people she ruled. The air shifts, carrying a delicate breeze that curls around statues and arches, moving with alternating urgency and patience. The Hippodrome feels almost alive, as though it breathes with the city's memory, exhaling relief after centuries of clamor. Sunlight glints across the arches, illuminating fractures softened by time. Shadows stretch and shift across the tiers as hours pass. Even in stillness, the arena teaches lessons about endurance, the passage of time, and the quiet authority of history. You reflect on Zoe, whose story was shaped as much by the fervor of the crowd as by palace intrigue, and whose presence lingers still in this enduring, patient space. You walk deliberately along the Hippodrome's perimeter, imagining the energy once channeled through the spina, where spectators leaned forward, straining to catch every turn, every maneuver, every fleeting triumph. The arena was more than a sporting ground. It was a theater of anticipation, its architecture designed to focus attention, to magnify collective emotion, and to remind rulers of the subtle authority of the crowd. The sun climbs higher, warming the marble beneath your feet. Light filters through arches, revealing both grandeur and decay, permanence and impermanence. Every surface tells a story of joy and despair, competition and politics. The Hippodrome stands not simply as stone, but as a vessel of experience, a living testament to the interplay between rulers and citizens, spectacle and strategy, loyalty and ambition. You pause again at the spina, tracing carved reliefs of victories long past. Statues and obelisks whisper lessons of human striving and the fleeting nature of glory. Zoe's restoration echoes here. The arena was her stage, and the voice of the people her instrument. Empires are made not only in palaces, but in the energy, anticipation, and collective will of citizens. Rising, a breeze brushes past, carrying faint traces of history. Even empty, the Hippodrome vibrates with presence. The marble beneath your feet seems almost alive, resonating with centuries of both chaos and calm. As you exit, the arena remains behind you, its memory preserved, its quiet lessons intact. You leave with a sense that power is never solitary. Authority must be earned. and history endures through both spectacle and reflection. You step into the chamber, and the air seems to shift. Heavy velvet drapes fall in soft, deliberate folds from ceiling to floor, their rich hues crimson, indigo, and forest green softening the brilliance of the marble walls. The fabric swallows sound, so that even your footsteps feel careful, reverent. The hush is not oppressive, it is an invitation. The room favors whispers over conversation, contemplation over hurry. Candlelight flickers across the folds, sending warm reflections onto polished stone. Every curve of marble and drape carries the memory of centuries, of rulers who understood that presentation could speak as powerfully as words. There is warmth here, not fire, but the comforting embrace of history draped gently over you. You smile, thinking that if interiors could sleep, this room would be its quiet mode, composed, soft, and unhurried. Golden icons gleam in the candlelight, their surfaces glowing with calm authority. Each painted figure appears both present and untouchable, their eyes fixed in eternal vigilance, their expressions carefully rendered to convey reverence and accessibility. Saints, martyrs, and holy figures inhabit these frames, and the faint scent of beeswax and old wood drifts in the air, folding you into the chamber's quiet rhythm. It is a space designed for stillness, reflection, and the subtle assertion of sacred and secular authority in tandem. Zoe and Theodora exist here differently than in public life. They are not shadows, but radiance made tangible. Their images extend beyond these walls, struck onto coins that circulated through Constantinople and its provinces. Each coin carries more than value. It conveys legitimacy, a reminder that the empire is guided by hands both seen and unseen. To hold one is to feel authority in your palm, to encounter the empress in an intimate, everyday exchange. You imagine a baker weighing a coin with Zoe's serene face, quipping that even the empress could not rise as well as his bread. Here, the sacred and the mundane, ceremony and daily life entwine seamlessly, each reinforcing the other. The icons themselves shimmer with subtle mystery. Chroniclers suggest that Zoe may have painted some of them herself, that her own hand applied pigments to wood, shaping holy figures with deliberate reverence. Whether this is true remains uncertain. Historians still debate if these icons were truly painted by Zoe, yet the rumor endows her with additional aura. The thought of an empress painting saints herself, rather than merely commissioning them, conveys a layered message: devotion and authority, personal and political, intimately connected. The uncertainty is like incense smoke curling through the room, impossible to seize, yet undeniably present, shaping the atmosphere. You step closer to an icon, framed in delicate gold leaf, and let your eyes follow its imagery. A saint glows softly, encircled by intricate patterns of red and blue. Every brushstroke feels intentional, a gesture made with care. You imagine Zoe, guiding the hand that painted it, steadying her movements as she did her reign, and sense a quiet kinship across centuries. The room's hush seems to crystallize patience itself. You picture Zoe sighing after a crook stroke, murmuring, "Well, at least saints are forgiving," and smile at the humanity beneath regal precision. A draft stirs the velvet drapes, moving them like living curtains that frame the icons. Politics and piety intersect here with subtle elegance. The velvet absorbs light and sound, offering comfort, while the gold asserts permanence, a quiet reminder of enduring authority. Zoe and Theodora understood that rulership relied on both spectacle and subtlety. Their faces on coins and icons were never vanity. They were strategy, binding faith and power, silent yet unmistakable, commanding acknowledgement in every small gesture. You pause, imagining Zoe and Theodora together in the golden glow of the chamber. Zoe, radiant and commanding even in repose, and Theodora, solemn and meditative, framed by the sanctity of iconography. Their presence is calm, deliberate, a quiet authority that speaks without words. Silence here carries more weight than speech ever could. You smile at the thought that if portraits today held the same power, online arguments might end with a single glance, each painted eye dispensing judgment across time. The coins scattered throughout the empire tell a parallel story. They are more than currency. They are the empress's whispers, traveling through cities, markets, and villages. Each coin is a tangible connection to the palace, a reminder that the empire reaches into daily life. A merchant might hand one over for bread, a devotee drop one into a church collection box, a soldier pass one to a comrade, all exchanges quietly reinforcing the sisters' presence. Zoe and Theodora were at once distant rulers and intimate companions, shaping everyday existence as much as governance from thrones. The chamber itself seems aware of these layers. Walking slowly, absorbing every gleam of gold, every fold of velvet, you sense the deliberation behind it. Perhaps Zoe painted to assert legitimacy, or perhaps for solace, or both. The act itself demonstrates a profound understanding of power. Influence is extended not only through edicts, but through enduring symbols, through artifacts that outlive immediate authority. History endures most vividly in these quiet gestures, in images that survive long after proclamations fade. The velvet drapes seem to nod in acknowledgement, agreeing silently that authority can be quiet yet omnipresent. As you approach the exit, the golden glow lingers in your vision, a reflection of both material and memory. Coins, icons, and drapes combine into a sense of the sisters not only as rulers, but as orchestrators of the empire, as daily rhythm. The chamber's hush is not emptiness, but a breath between centuries, holding reverence and revelation. You step back slowly, aware that Zoe and Theodora remain palpable in the interplay of gold, color, and texture. The whispers of history trail behind you like incense, a reminder that influence need not shout to endure. The chamber remains, its quiet grandeur intact, its lessons embedded in marble, velvet, and gold leaf. Power is both public and intimate, proclaimed and implied. History persists not only in events, but in symbols, small gestures of care, and creativity that continue to speak across time. You leave carrying the echo of quiet authority, the resonance of a space where rulers and saints, art and strategy, devotion and power converge in hushed harmony. The air along the Bosphorus carries a quiet persistence, a gentleness that seems almost eternal. Evening has settled, draping the waters in soft silver and muted blue. The breeze brushes lightly against your skin, a hand both invisible and reassuring, while each wave laps against the stone embankments with measured rhythm, deliberate and unhurried, a pulse older than any human memory. Lanterns flicker along the shoreline, their reflections stretching across the water like delicate brushstrokes on a vast canvas. For a brief moment, you smile, noticing how the shifting lights resemble strands of noodles scattered across a table, delicate, chaotic, and unhurried. The simplicity of this image contrasts beautifully with the weight of history, reminding you that even in spaces steeped with power, quiet, human moments persist. During the reign of Zoe and Theodora, these same waters thrummed with a completely different energy. The Bosphorus pulsed with commerce. Ships glided steadily along its length, their wooden hulls creaking under the weight of silk, spices, wine, and precious metals. Each vessel carried more than cargo. Each was a thread in an intricate tapestry, binding cities, provinces, and distant lands to the heart of Constantinople. The empire's lifeblood flowed through these channels, the heartbeat of trade as vital as air itself. You imagine the water then, roiling under countless sails, harbor cries echoing, sails snapping sharply in the wind. The rhythm of commerce was constant, unending, yet never rushed a cadence that sustained both the city's prosperity and the empire as enduring power. Standing here now, with the evening breeze tousling your hair, you sense the echoes of those bustling harbors, softened into memory. It is an intimate realization. The same waters brushing your feet once carried the vitality of a thriving empire. Historical accounts suggest Zoe herself sometimes paused to watch these waters. Perhaps she leaned against palace railings, watching ships glide in and out, aware that the empire's strength depended as much on trade as on court politics. Her gaze might have lingered on shimmering reflections, weighing goods and opportunities with quiet intensity. Theodora, too, understood the Bosphorus as more than a trade route. It was a lifeline. Faith, devotion, and authority required material stability. Spiritual and political power were inseparable from economic vitality. In these waters, they could sense both the immediate and the enduring. Rulers attuned to the delicate balance where attention to detail shaped empires. On rare evenings, perhaps, they too leaned against the railing, listening to the steady whisper of the currents, longing for a peaceful moment much like your own. And yet, as history always does, the Bosphorus retains its mysteries. Stories persist of merchant ships swallowed by sudden storms or vanished without explanation. Rumors of pirates, of treachery on the waves, of an unpredictable sea exacting its own tribute, swirl through chronicles and oral accounts alike. The records offer no certainty, leaving questions unanswered, unresolved. These tales linger like shadows on the evening water, faint yet persistent. Standing here, you feel them too, an echo of the unknown, a reminder that not everything can or should be explained. The breeze carries these uncertainties gently, letting them drift without insistence. They are neither frightening nor urgent, only present, like the constant motion of the water itself. As the city lights begin to glow more prominently, the skyline takes on the faint brilliance of scattered stars. Constantinople seems to breathe with the rhythm of the Bosphorus, inhaling as ships arrive, exhaling as they depart. The flow is slow and calming, a reminder that the world once moved at a deliberate pace. A distant gull drifts across the scene, its cry mingling with the soft rustle of waves. You cannot help but laugh quietly at the thought that gulls have squawked over discarded fish in this very spot for more than 1,000 years, eternal witnesses to human life and leftovers alike. The continuity is humbling. Time folds gently here, overlapping centuries, each moment imprinted on the same water. Twilight deepens. The silhouette of Hagia Sophia rises in the distance, its domes catching the last glimmers of light, standing as both a symbol and a sanctuary. The sisters' reign ensured that the city maintained its grandeur, but they understood that grandeur alone could not sustain an empire. The Bosphorus carried not just luxuries and commodities, but whispers of distant lands, rumors, prayers, and knowledge. Its waters bore the weight of both expectation and uncertainty, yet it remained steadfast, flowing silently, reliably, like the hands of rulers who understood the necessity of patience. Zoe and Theodora recognized this, knowing that the empire's resilience depended on both visible acts and unseen currents. Standing here, you feel a kinship with that awareness, sensing the connection between human action and natural rhythm. Walking along the shoreline, your footsteps light against the stone. The evening breeze threads through your hair, carrying a sense of continuity. The same air that brushed against the cheeks of Zoe and Theodora now caresses yours, unbroken, unchanged in essence. Time feels less like a linear progression and more like folded parchment, each layer overlapping the next with careful order. You grin faintly, imagining that time travel is no more complicated than standing by a breezy shore and letting history speak through sensation, reflection, and imagination. The mysteries of the Bosphorus remain, companions rather than burdens, lost ships, unrecorded fates, unspoken prayers. They drift along the waters, present yet unobtrusive, like waves dissolving against the shore, fading into quiet acceptance. The channel carries both certainty and wonder, the recorded and the unknown, the permanent and the fleeting. Its slow rhythm reassures, a reminder that not every story demands resolution. Sometimes it is enough to simply listen. You pause, taking in the full scene. City lights shimmering, water glinting under the evening sky, the breeze cool against your skin. Each detail merges into a single seamless impression of calm and continuity. The Bosphorus becomes more than a river. It is a gentle pause between continents, histories, and breaths. You feel the quiet presence of Zoe and Theodora, once standing here, observing the same horizon, sharing the same silent wonder. You linger, savoring the subtle interplay of past and present, water and sky, history and mystery. The air inside the monastic gardens is hushed, carrying the mingling fragrances of herbs and blossoms, a perfume that feels timeless and intimate. Olive trees bend gracefully, their slender branches brushing lightly against one another, silver. Leaves glinting in the soft play of sunlight, filtered through the canopy. The stone paths wend gently beneath them, uneven yet purposeful, guiding footsteps along quiet corridors of nature and devotion. You walk slowly, noticing the faint crunch of gravel beneath your sandals, a sound so subtle it seems to echo the hushed whispers of monks long past. The gardens breathe a quiet rhythm of their own, a cadence older than the empire, yet holy, alive. You smile at the thought that even here, amid sanctity, monks may have debated watering schedules, their human concerns threaded through centuries of piety. Theodora often sought spaces like these, where silence enfolded the walls like a protective cloak. Her devotion to the Orthodox Church is well remembered, her support steady and influential, fortifying faith even during times of political turbulence. She attended ceremonies with deliberate reverence, ensuring that rituals were observed and traditions maintained. The monastic gardens reflect this aspect of her character. They are peaceful, orderly, yet subtly commanding, their beauty understated yet resolute. Every flower, every carefully pruned shrub, feels like a quiet affirmation of her enduring presence, a mirror of her gentle but firm guidance over the empire. In these gardens, devotion and governance merge seamlessly, each element reinforcing the other. History records that Theodora defended the Orthodox cause with unwavering resolve, while her sister Zoe navigated palace, intrigues, and political maneuvering. Theodora grounded herself in faith, offering measured counsel and steady leadership. Many chronicles describe her as stern yet serene, her clarity of purpose inspiring. Respect among those who served her. Scholars still debate how deeply her personal spirituality shaped imperial policy, but it is impossible to ignore the alignment between her piety and the governance she practiced. The monastic gardens embody this duality. Their paths are soft underfoot, yet their stonework endures. Their air is fragrant and calming, yet the layout commands attention and respect. Among the written records and oral traditions, one charming story persists. Theodora, it is said, occasionally disguised herself to attend ceremonies unnoticed. Draped in simple garments, she would blend into the crowd, listening quietly beneath the cypress trees, her presence hidden yet attentive. The image is almost playful, a ruler, regal and formidable, wrapped in plain cloth, navigating the shadows. Among ordinary worshippers, participating without fanfare. Whether fact or legend, the tale humanizes her, softening the distance imposed by imperial authority. You imagine her whispering, perhaps, "Please do not step on my foot," as she slips past unsuspecting monks and nuns, her humility momentarily concealing her power. The thought elicits a quiet laugh, a kind of private amusement reserved for moments when history and imagination intersect. The gardens themselves seem to hold these stories within their contours, silent witnesses to centuries of devotion. Worn stones and moss-lined paths suggest footsteps of the past, hints of movements once deliberate and measured. Sun trails lead to hidden chapels, their frescoes faint but still luminous in the fading light, echoes of artistry and belief that have endured despite the passage of time. Monks and nuns once passed through these corridors, chanting softly, voices rising and falling like the threads of incense smoke curling toward the heavens. The air seems to carry their devotion still, just as it now carries a sense of calm to you. The presence of Theodora lingers in imagination, a subtle awareness that she once moved here, observing with a careful heart, guiding both spirit and body. Empire with unseen hands. The mystery of her disguised attendance continues to invite speculation. Was it a gesture of humility? A desire to connect with the worshippers? To hear their prayers directly without ceremonial filters? Or was it a private need to pray freely, away from the burdens of courtly formality? The silence of the gardens keeps its secret, offering no answer. Like the shadow of a passing bird, the truth glides through the air present, yet fleeting, enhancing rather than disturbing the stillness. You feel this delicate tension, a reminder that not all questions need immediate resolution. Some exist to deepen perception, to make space for reflection. You pause by a fountain, where water trickles continuously over worn stone, each drop forming concentric ripples that reach outward and fade, a rhythm both steady and patient. The sound blends seamlessly with the rustle of leaves, a symphony of natural cadence that guides the mind toward rest. Light falls unevenly across the stone, dappling the ground in shifting patterns, shadows that dance lightly, fleeting yet intimate. Time seems to slow, stretching each moment into a gentle continuum of presence. You chuckle at the imagined figure of a monk staring at these same shadows centuries ago, deciding that the pattern resembles a loaf of bread, a small, humorous observation echoing across time. Every element of the gardens reinforces the essence of Theodora. Her influence was quiet but enduring, subtle yet unyielding. Just as the olive trees grow patiently, their roots deep and branches reaching steadily skyward, so too did her guidance shape the empire in ways often invisible but always present. Strength does not always announce itself in grandeur. Sometimes it flows in soft gestures, in sustained attention, in the patient shaping of spaces and hearts. The shadows beneath the trees, the scent of blossoms, the cool brush of air across the stone paths, these are the traces of her presence, subtle, yet enduring. A testament to a ruler whose legacy was woven as much through devotion and quiet influence as through proclamation and decree. You take a deep breath, letting the serenity of the gardens fill your chest. The stillness, the scents, the light, the rustle of leaves, they all converge into a single resonant impression of peace and resilience. Theodora's life and influence are embedded here, intertwined with the natural rhythms of the garden. Here, strength can be soft, guidance can be gentle, and impact can endure in silence. You walk slowly, absorbing each detail, each echo of the past, and feel the subtle, steady pulse of a ruler who moved with humility, devotion, and unwavering purpose. In this space, you understand that power need not always roar. It can, at times, whisper. Night settles gently across the palace grounds, folding the vast expanse of stone and garden into a soft, contemplative darkness. Lanterns glow along the high walls, their golden light diffused by the cool evening air. Each flame flickers quietly within its glass enclosure, casting halos of amber that ripple over the carved stone and ivy-clad parapets. You move slowly beneath them, your footsteps measured, crunching faintly on the gravel paths that trace the perimeter of the palace. The scent of burning oil and faint smoke drifts past you, mingling with the faint perfume of nocturnal flowers. In the gardens beyond, the hush is complete, yet alive with small, almost imperceptible sounds. The sigh of wind through trees, the occasional rustle of a night bird, reminders that the world beyond the palace walls persists, even when the human pulse seems to slow. For a moment, You wonder if ancient guards ever debated whose lantern burned brightest, comparing faint halos and shadowed stretches, as if light itself were a quiet contest. These walls have borne witness to countless stories, some triumphant, some tragic, others so quietly personal that the stones themselves might be the only keepers of the memory. Among these is the exile of Zoe to the Petrion Palace. She was not cast far into the wilderness, nor confined to a distant dungeon, but remained within the Imperial complex, displaced yet surrounded by familiar structures. The proximity of her exile is poignant, near the lifeblood of Constantinople, yet cut off from power, a presence visible yet constrained. Lanterns like those along which you now walk would have illuminated her corridors, silent companions to her solitude. You imagine the flickering light playing across her face, casting shadows that shifted and danced, echoing the quiet rhythm of her waiting. Theodora and Zoe shared many chapters of ambition, rule, and alliance, yet exile marked one of the most dramatic and intimate turns in Zoe's life. Deprived of immediate influence, she was forced into patient observation, a prisoner of circumstance in the midst of a palace alive with motion. Outside, the city continued its unceasing rhythm. Markets opened at dawn, ships moved through the harbor, bells tolled for evening prayers. But for Zoe, time contracted and expanded in equal measure. Each hour passed slowly, measured by lantern light and the distant sound of footsteps. You smile faintly, imagining her bending toward a flame, whispering as if it might respond, seeking in that glow some quiet reflection or reassurance. Historical accounts of her exile are broad, and precise details remain elusive. Which chamber did she occupy within the Petrion complex? Scholars and chroniclers debate. Some suggest a gilded hall converted into an elegant prison. Others hint at modest quarters near the sea. The uncertainty allows imagination to wander freely, filling gaps where documentation falters. Perhaps the walls around her were not only confining but protective, a paradox of closeness and isolation. Perhaps she traced the same corridors you walk now, fingers brushing stone and ironwork, aware that every echo and shadow was a companion to her own solitude. There is also the persistent suggestion of hidden spaces within the palace, secret passages, concealed chambers, silent retreats. They were used over centuries for refuge, storage, or clandestine movement. Some accounts hint that Zoe discovered one of these passages during her confinement, pacing through its quiet corridors while lantern light stretched long, thin, across the stone floors. The thought is intimate. An empress tracing hidden paths, asserting agency in small gestures, finding movement and freedom within the constraints imposed upon her. You chuckle quietly, picturing her perhaps bumping into a wall or muttering under her breath, "Well, that is definitely not the exit." The human humor of a ruler's private life, flickering against the weight of imperial history. The lanterns themselves seem alive in this narrative, each flame steady yet flickering, a rhythm of persistence amid shadow. For you, their glow guides the steps. For Zoe, it might have offered both comfort and quiet frustration, visible freedom just out of reach, warmth alongside the reminder of separation. Light and longing intertwine here, the soft glow of human craft meeting the soft shadow of circumstance. Each lantern acts as a marker in the night, both literal and metaphorical, illuminating walls and marking time, a testament to presence even when agency is curtailed. You pause at a corner where two walls meet, shadows overlapping like folded fabric, and for a moment, the world is reduced to this small intersection of light and darkness. Lantern flames bend and tremble in the night air, softening edges, giving uncertainty a tangible texture. From here, the distant sounds of the Bosphorus reach you, a faint lap of water, carried on the cool breeze, reminding you that the palace sits between the permanence of stone and the fluidity of life beyond its gates. In this stillness, Zoe's exile feels immediate and yet removed, a story embedded in the architecture itself, folded gently into the walls and the night. The lack of resolution to her story seems fitting. Some histories whisper rather than declare. Some details are deliberately hidden, lost, or allowed to dissolve into speculation. The Petrian palace itself offers no complete answer. The lanterns, too, carry dualities: light and shadow, presence and absence, guidance and limitation. You inhale deeply, letting the evening air, scented with oil and jasmine, settle over your senses. The walls, the lanterns, the distant water, they hold memory and mystery in equal measure. They remind you that history is often a gentle, incremental pulse rather than a series of bold proclamations. And that light, even small and solitary, endures. As you continue along the palace path, the rhythm of lanterns guides you, marking your way through a narrative that spans centuries. The stones beneath your feet have felt the tread of emperors and exiles, guards and servants, the ordinary and the extraordinary. Zoe's story merges with the present, each flicker of flame a reminder that the lives of the powerful were as human as your own. Even in confinement, even in separation, presence persists, carried quietly in light, shadow, and memory. You sense that this endurance, subtle and patient, is itself a kind of freedom won, preserved not in walls or decrees, but in awareness, observation, and the gentle unfolding of history, step by careful step. The courtyards lie silent beneath a sky sprinkled with stars, the cool cobblestones pressing softly beneath your careful steps. Each archway and colonnade seems to pause, holding its breath for a visitor unhurried by time. Your footsteps echo gently against the walls, a slow rhythmic drum that mingles with the faint rustle of leaves and the distant whisper of the night. Even the pigeons roosting on high balustrades tuck their heads beneath their wings, respecting the calm. The scent of damp stone rises, mingling with delicate fragrances of lavender, rosemary, and thyme from the courtyard gardens, soothing and grounding. In the quiet shadows, you imagine the soft swish of silk as noble women once moved unseen, though now the courtyards are empty, save for your presence. Long ago, these stones witnessed events that shaped an empire. Zoe's return to the throne came not through armies, but through the subtle determination of citizens, moving discreetly through alleys and side streets under the cover of night. Their collective resolve was like a gentle breeze rippling across a still pond. The exact scale of the uprising is debated. The courtyards may have hosted secret gatherings that left no record. You smile at the thought of a lone guard, startled by a shadow, mistaking it for a battalion. These courtyards balance the rhythms of urban life and imperial intrigue. Designed for contemplation and social exchange, they once hosted quiet negotiations, reconciliations, and playful encounters. You imagine Zoe walking the stones, her robes brushing the cool ground, pausing beneath a column to feel the city's pulse beyond the walls. Perhaps Theodora was present in spirit, offering counsel through memory's subtle whispers. In these spaces, time seems to slow, shadows linger, and history itself breathes quietly between the stones. Moonlight plays across the fountains in the larger courtyards, scattering silver reflections like tiny stars over stone basins. Each droplet falls in a gentle rhythm, almost musical, marking your passage with soft percussion. The fountains, once a source of refreshment for residents and visitors, still offer a sense of continuity, their murmuring waters a constant amid human bustle. Some hide deeper cisterns below, secret chambers whose origins remain a mystery, their subterranean networks twisting like veins beneath the city. You picture someone accidentally discovering one, stumbling into water and whispered history alike. And you chuckle softly at the idea. The walls enclosing the courtyards have seen countless faces, remembered and forgotten. The grandeur of their architecture contrasts with the night's quiet, creating an intimacy that allows history itself to bend toward your presence. You feel the smooth marble balustrades beneath your fingertips, worn by centuries of hands tracing the same paths. The courtyards echo not with voices, but with impressions. The rustle of leaves, the trickle of water, the distant bark of a dog on the city's outskirts. Here, power exists alongside serenity, influence often expressed in whispers and gestures rather than proclamations and spectacle. In these spaces, Zoe's spirit seems entwined with the city's life. Her return to the throne restored stability to Constantinople, yet the subtleties of her political navigation remain partly veiled. The courtyards themselves appear to murmur their own interpretations of courage and wisdom, silent witnesses to her quiet mastery. Theodora's influence, equally formidable, complements this narrative. Her unyielding commitment to civic and spiritual order, visible in the alignment of stones, the flow of water, and the balance of light and shadow. You might chuckle quietly, imagining the sisters debating in jest which lantern placement best enhanced the marble floors. A playful interlude amidst the weight of history. Pausing beneath an arch, you sense that each courtyard carries a distinct personality. Large ceremonial spaces exude authority. Smaller niches encourage private reflection. The contrast between open expanses and confined passages mirrors the tension between public duty and private contemplation that Zoe likely experienced. You imagine her footsteps echoing over the same stones, mingling with the distant whispers of tapestries rustling inside adjoining halls. The interplay of stillness and subtle activity, quiet observation and discreet action imbues the spaces with a sense of life, even in apparent emptiness. Beyond the walls, the city rests. Merchants have shuttered their shops, street lamps glow faintly, and the harbor reflects the moon's soft shimmer. The courtyards, though enclosed, remain connected to the broader urban rhythm, serving as thresholds between introspection and public life. Careful observation reveals traces of past events, horn steps, indentations in fountain basins, shadows that gather beneath ancient columns. Historians debate the precise gatherings that restored Zoe to power, yet the courtyard's silent testimony endures, inviting the imagination to fill in what official records omit. Walking along the edges of the courtyards, you notice the delicate interplay of stone, water, and foliage. Gardens tucked into corners release subtle fragrances, mingling with the night air, while leaves sway gently and occasional drops ripple through fountain pools. The stillness invites contemplation, encouraging reflection on the layers of human experience, daily routines, decisive moments, and subtle acts of courage. You may chuckle quietly at someone mistaking a falling leaf for an omen, a fleeting humor amidst serenity. As your steps carry you onward, the sense of time stretches. Each stone, fountain, and whisper of wind contributes to a living tapestry of history. Zoe's return, the people's quiet rebellion, and Theodora's influence resonate here, intertwined with the sensory richness of the courtyards. You pause again, letting your gaze linger on the moonlit water and stone. These spaces, silent, yet imbued with memory, merge past and present, offering a meditation on place, persistence, and subtle power. Continuing along the quiet path, your breathing slows and a gentle calm settles over you. The courtyards seem to hold echoes of past lives, the courage of rulers, the resolve of citizens, decisions whispered or recorded, traced subtly in stone, shadow, and light. You imagine Zoe or Theodora pausing here, savoring the night's hush. Amid the weight of duty, the silence becomes companionable, reassuring, inviting careful attention and quiet reflection. Beyond the walls, moonlight shimmers on distant streets, scents of herbs linger, and the city rests. Zoe's return, Theodora's steadfastness, and Constantinople's enduring presence weave together into a tapestry of memory. With each unhurried step, you carry wonder, calm curiosity, and a reflective awareness, walking gently among the whispers of history preserved in these stones. The Imperial baths lie shrouded in a humid stillness, a sanctuary of stone and water tucked deep within the heart of Constantinople. Stepping through the arched entrance, the air changes immediately. Warm, scented with faint traces of oils and herbs, heavy with the subtle echo of dripping water. The marble floors, polished smooth by countless feet over centuries, glisten faintly under the subdued light filtering through high, latticed windows. You move cautiously, aware that even a soft step can break the fragile silence. Yet the space seems to absorb sound, offering a private cocoon in the midst of the bustling city outside. Water murmurs gently from fountains hidden in niches along the walls, its rhythm steady and hypnotic. The basins, carved with delicate floral motifs, catch the light in glimmering reflections, rippling as droplets fall in quiet succession. You imagine citizens of all ranks wandering through these halls long ago, their voices low and respectful, the occasional laugh or murmur punctuating the hush. Nobles and merchants alike would have shared this space, a rare meeting ground where the boundaries of rank softened amid the soothing warmth. Even the guards, stationed at discreet points, would have been mindful of the sacred calm, their steps slow, their eyes alert yet relaxed, that the central pool draws your attention. A large, steaming expanse bordered by intricate mosaics, the colors muted in the dim light, but still perceptible. Swirls of blue and gold depict mythological scenes, gods and heroes frozen in eternal motion, their gazes watching silently over the bathers. You picture Zoe herself, perhaps in a private moment of respite, walking along the edge of this pool, her reflection merging with the mosaic beneath. Theodora, too, may have found solace here, discussing matters of state with trusted confidence in whispers that floated like mist over the warm water. The baths were not merely a place of cleansing, but of contemplation, a space where both body and mind were refreshed, and where discreet alliances and subtle negotiations could take root without the noise of the palace corridors. As you move deeper into the bath complex, you notice smaller chambers branching off from the central hall. Steam rises in soft, curling tendrils from heated pools, filling the air with the faint scent of lavender and rosemary. You imagine the attendants, skilled in the art of relaxation, moving silently among the bathers, their hands deftly applying oils, scrubbing away the dust and tension of long days. The sound of running water forms a delicate counterpoint to the quiet murmur of conversation, creating a rhythm both soothing and meditative. In the corners, you sense shadows shifting a tapestry of light and dark, revealing and concealing, hinting at the intimate stories that unfolded here, known only to those who stepped quietly into the warmth. The bathist design encourages a gentle wandering, a slow journey from cooler pools to warmer ones, from quiet niches to open halls. Each step invites observation. The play of light across polished stone, the delicate scent of herbs mingling with heated air, the soft hiss of water cascading over marble basins. You notice how the architecture channels both warmth and sound, how columns and arches create hidden corners for reflection and conversation. Even in silence, the space feels alive, a living testament to the city's devotion to harmony, beauty, and ritual. Your attention is drawn to the far end of the hall, where a semicircular alcove cradles a shallow heated pool. The steam rising from it seems almost tangible, forming misty shapes that drift lazily toward the vaulted ceiling. You imagine courtiers kneeling at the edge, their reflections mirrored in the water, exchanging confidences or secrets in hushed tones. Perhaps a young scholar once took notes here, chronicling the bath's architecture, the flow of water, the delicate mosaics, his work hidden in scrolls, now lost to time. Even today, the pool exudes a sense of continuity, linking centuries of use, of ritual and relaxation, of human presence gently fading into memory. The soundscape is subtle yet persistent. A gentle drip from a fountain, a soft splash as water, moves across the edges of the pools, the occasional sigh of contentment. In these murmurs, you detect the pulse of the city itself, transmitted through water and stone. The baths were a haven from both the physical heat of Constantinople's summers and the pressures of courtly life. Within their walls, distinctions of rank softened, and individuals, empresses, nobles, soldiers. Merchants could step aside from their roles and simply exist in the restorative embrace of warmth and water. You imagine the quiet wisdom exchanged here, plans whispered under the veil of steam, ideas flowing as freely as the pools themselves dot as you walk along the corridors. Your footsteps echo faintly against the marble, mingling with the waters. Constant whisper. You notice niches designed for solitary contemplation, benches carved from cool stone, and alcoves that offer privacy while maintaining the bath's elegant symmetry. The layout seems intentional, guiding movement while inviting pause, fostering both connection and reflection. Even without voices, the space feels conversational, as if the architecture itself speaks through the gentle gestures of design, the rhythm of water, and the scent of infused oils. Toward the exit, the air begins to cool slightly, carrying with it a trace of the city beyond. The baths, a secret oasis of warmth and calm, stand in quiet contrast to the bustling streets and bustling palace beyond their walls. You pause at the threshold, taking a final look at the pools, mosaics, and arches, sensing the weight of history in every stone. These waters have carried the presence of emperors and empresses, philosophers and merchants, servants and guards, all moving through the soft embrace of the bath's architecture, leaving traces of humanity in the gentle murmur of splashing. Water and whispered conversation dot as you step back into the open night. The memory of warmth and quiet persists, a gentle echo that lingers in your senses. The Imperial baths are not merely stone and water, they are a testament to the city's dedication to ritual, relaxation, and subtle diplomacy. They are a place where history is felt, not just observed, and where the soft murmurs of the past invite you to listen closely, to appreciate the delicate balance of life, power, and serenity that once defined Constantinople. As twilight drapes its gentle veil across Constantinople, the palace gardens awaken in the soft embrace of moonlight. You step carefully along the winding pathways, feeling the coolness of dew-laden grass underfoot and inhaling the faint fragrance of night-blooming flowers. The air is crisp yet soothing, carrying whispers of distant fountains and the rustle of leaves stirred by a mild evening breeze. Lanterns, carefully placed among hedges and along the edges of marble walkways, cast pools of warm, golden light that flicker softly, reflecting in the delicate curves of ornamental ponds. You pause to watch a lone koi gliding through water that glimmers like liquid silver, its movements slow and purposeful, reminding you how even small ripples carry quiet beauty. Zoe and Theodora's presence seems tangible here, lingering like echoes in the floral-scented air. You imagine them walking these same paths centuries ago, perhaps in contemplative silence or soft conversation. Theodora, ever meticulous in matters of faith, might have paused to admire the symmetry of a carefully clipped hedge, or to note the placement of a sacred statue among blooms of lavender and roses. Historical records suggest she often moved through these gardens at dusk, reflecting on both matters of state and personal devotion. A lesser-known detail whispers through time. Some scholars believe Theodora would sometimes dress in plain attire to wander unnoticed, observing the gardeners and servants, connecting with life beyond the palace's grand chambers. Historians still debate why Theodora chose a life unmarried. You remind yourself, feeling the lingering mystery, add a soft hum to the night. The intricate design of the garden paths encourages slow, mindful wandering. Stone benches sit beneath the boughs of carefully nurtured trees, offering moments of quiet rest and reflection. You hear the faint scrape of a branch against the cobblestone walkway, the sound blending with the distant splash of water from an ornate fountain. The geometry of the hedges, the arc of the flower beds, and the shimmer of the moon on marble statues together create a harmonious rhythm, as if the garden itself were breathing alongside the city. Each step you take seems deliberately slow, inviting you to linger, to absorb the delicate interplay of light, shadow, and scent. Perhaps a soft laugh once passed between the sisters in these gardens, carried away like the gentle breeze that now brushes past your face. In one secluded corner, you notice a small pavilion overlooking a reflecting pool. Its columns rise like silent sentinels, and the roof is adorned with gilded motifs that catch the moonlight with subtle shimmer. You imagine Zoe pausing here, contemplating decisions that would shape the empire, her reflection merging with the rippling water beneath. She was known to hold influence not only through titles, but through presence, charm, and intelligence, moving in ways that balanced visibility and discretion. The exact depth of her knowledge in sciences and arts remains a historical puzzle, adding an element of quiet intrigue to these gardens. Historians still debate how deeply Zoe studied the sciences. You muse, smiling softly at the thought of the Empress quietly leafing through manuscripts by lantern light, a moment shared only with the gentle lap of water. Night creatures add their own rhythm to the evening, a chorus subtle enough to blend seamlessly with the garden's calm. Crickets chirp in measured cadence from the hedgerows, and the occasional owl offers a distant, echoing call. A sense of jasmine and rosemary drift faintly in the air, mingling with the earthy aroma of damp soil and stone warmed by the day. You walk along a path lined with low hedges, observing the play of shadows cast by the latticework of the trellises above. Each step is measured, deliberate, as if time itself moves slower within these cultivated spaces, allowing you to sense the whispers of the past brushing gently against your consciousness. You come upon a circular terrace at the center of the gardens, paved with stones worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. A fountain, modest but elegant, trickles continuously, its water glinting like moonlit silver. You notice how the gardens were designed to encourage pause, reflection, and gentle conversation. Courtiers, scholars, and perhaps even the sisters themselves would have found here an oasis of quietude, away from the demands of politics and the clamor of the palace. Even in solitude, the garden's paths lead the mind gently forward, encouraging observation, contemplation, and the slow savoring of night's subtle beauty. The moon climbs higher, spilling silver over statues and flower beds alike. You notice a small grove where olive trees cluster, their leaves whispering softly as the breeze stirs them. The soft creak of a gate in the distance and the delicate hum of insects create a quiet symphony, a reminder that life continues in hushed, rhythmic patterns even in the midst of history's grandeur. Somewhere beneath the moonlight, past corridors and vaulted halls, the sisters' influence lingers in the careful maintenance of these spaces, in the rhythms of water and stone, and in the gentle murmur of cultivated nature. The palace itself becomes a dark silhouette against the luminous night sky, its walls towering yet softened by distance and shadow. You sense how the gardens functioned as both refuge and stage, spaces for reflection, strategy, and quiet delight. Even the smallest details, the curve of a marble balustrade, the scent of herbs crushed underfoot, the soft murmur of water, invite a calm attentiveness that slows your own heartbeat and clears your thoughts. You imagine Zoe and Theodora strolling. Here, their steps deliberate, their conversations a mixture of practicality and quiet amusement, leaving traces of presence that persist like a gentle fragrance carried on the night air. As you reach the garden's exit, you take a deep breath, savoring the mingling aromas of flora and earth, the gentle caress of moonlit air, and the subtle music of water. The palace gardens, like the sisters themselves, offer a space where time feels suspended, where thought and reflection flow gently alongside nature's rhythms. Each path, each fountain, each leaf illuminated in silver light tells a story of balance, contemplation, and enduring serenity, allowing you to linger a moment longer in quiet, mindful appreciation. You step lightly along the cobbled streets of Constantinople, where the distant sound of water guides you toward the hidden heart of the city. The murmuring fountains of Byzantium invite your attention, each one a delicate song of trickling liquid that calms the mind and slows the pace of thought. The cool spray, carried on a gentle evening breeze, brushes softly against your skin, offering a sense of quiet refreshment. You notice how the fountains are more than decorative. They form a network of water that nourishes gardens, fills reservoirs, and reminds the city's inhabitants of the careful engineering that sustains their daily lives. The intricate pipes and channels, some hidden beneath stone walkways, carry water in measured, patient flows, much like the steady persistence of history itself. Zoe and Theodora's reign saw these fountains maintained with precision and care, each basin polished and each spout clear, reflecting their attention to both beauty and function. Records suggest that under their influence, the city's water system thrived, ensuring that citizens had access to fresh water even in the warmest months. A lesser-known detail hints that certain fountains may have been commissioned in honor of the sisters, inscribed with subtle motifs reflecting virtues such as wisdom and generosity, though most of these dedications have faded over time. Historians still debate the full extent of their influence on urban infrastructure. You remind yourself, letting the thought settle like a pebble in calm water as you approach the central square. A grand fountain emerges, its marble basin catching the last light of dusk and reflecting the sky's pale lavender hues. The water arcs gracefully from the central spout, falling in gentle rhythmic splashes that echo faintly against surrounding walls. You notice how pigeons and sparrows alike are drawn to the fountain, dipping briefly into the water before resuming their quiet flutters. The careful design ensures that every movement of water produces a soothing pattern of sound, both predictable and endlessly varied. Even a subtle breeze creates delicate ripples, turning the fountain into a living mirror that responds softly to its environment. Walking closer, you see small basins at the corners, each adorned with carved dolphins or lions, their mouths forming the points from which water flows. The artistry is precise yet whimsical, reminding you that Byzantine design often combined utility with subtle playfulness. You might imagine a courtier chuckling quietly at the sight, thinking that even lions can enjoy a drink on a warm afternoon. The fountains serve as gathering places, but also as moments of meditation. Citizens passing by would pause to draw water, to exchange greetings, or simply to listen to the continuous murmur, a gentle rhythm that mirrors the pulse of the city itself. You continue along a narrow street where smaller fountains, tucked into quiet courtyards, create intimate spaces of reflection. The water trickles over moss-covered stones, catching fragments of moonlight that have begun to appear in the sky. The scent of wet stone and nearby gardens mingles with the soft, ambient murmur, producing a sensory experience that encourages slow breathing and thoughtful observation. Perhaps Zoe once paused here after a long day, feeling the cool water's touch on her hands and listening to the fountain's gentle song, considering the empire's needs and her own place within it. Some accounts hint she had a fascination with water's properties, both practical and symbolic, using fountains to remind citizens of the empire's life-sustaining resources. Theodora, too, seems present in these spaces. She may have walked along marble paths beside fountains, offering quiet instructions to keepers or pausing to pray at small shrines nearby. Some unusual anecdotes suggest she might have had a favorite fountain where she would leave small offerings, though no records can confirm the details. The mere thought of her presence adds a soft layer of history to the sound of running water, making each splash and drip feel like a gentle echo from centuries past. As night deepens, the fountain's reflections multiply, catching the subtle glow of lanterns suspended from wrought iron posts. Shadows dance across nearby walls, creating patterns that shift with each ripple. You notice the symmetry in some fountain arrangements, the irregularity in others, and the deliberate thought that went into these designs. Byzantine architects and gardeners seem to understand that water, light, and stone together could create an atmosphere of contemplative serenity. Even as citizens walked past in quiet reverence or casual conversation, the fountains maintained their steady, soothing song, never hurried, never loud, only persistent in their gentle murmur. A small fountain at the edge of the palace grounds draws you closer, its water settling into a shallow basin where lilies float gracefully, their petals catching the faint reflection of starlight. Each droplet hisses softly as it meets stone, forming a gentle, almost meditative rhythm. In the quiet, you feel a subtle sense of continuity, as if Zoe and Theodora themselves had once whispered guidance into these waters, their presence lingering like a faint echo of past care. The fountain's design is thoughtful yet unobtrusive, allowing attention to remain on the natural flow of water rather than the clever mechanisms that sustain it. Hidden aqueducts, underground reservoirs, and concealed channels speak to a city meticulously maintained, where beauty and function coexist in seamless harmony. You step back to take in the fountain within the larger palace ensemble, letting this cascade of water form a soft, immersive symphony. The experience feels timeless, linking you to generations long past. The sisters' quiet influence, the citizens who once drew water, and the subtle rituals of daily life that left impressions on stone and liquid alike. Even a small ripple seems to hold meaning, reminding you that life, like water, moves persistently through channels, over obstacles, and into spaces both grand and intimate. The murmur of Byzantium's fountains, enduring yet serene, leaves a lasting impression. You feel grounded, connected to a world that moves slowly, deliberately, yet inevitably forward through history. Each sound, shimmer, and reflection invites reflection, fostering a sense of calm, reverence, and quiet companionship. With the city's past, where human care, ingenuity, and the rhythm of water intertwine to create an enduring, gentle presence. You wander quietly through the still streets of Constantinople as night drapes itself over the city, leaving only a few flickering lanterns to cast soft pools of light. The markets, usually bustling with merchants and citizens, now lie in serene silence, their wooden stalls and woven baskets resting peacefully until the morning stir. A gentle breeze carries faint scents of dried herbs, spices, and lingering wafts of sweet-baked bread, reminding you of the daily life that pulses quietly beneath the grandeur of imperial rule. The golden coins, known as numisma, glint faintly in dim lamplight, reflecting centuries of commerce and careful stewardship. You pick up one coin from a merchant's stall, long abandoned, and notice how the image of Zoe's profile, finely engraved, seems to smile softly back, as if welcoming you into the quiet rhythm of the city. During Zoe's time, coins were more than currency. They were a subtle assertion of presence and power. She appeared on the numisma, following her ascent to the throne, her likeness reminding citizens that their empress was attentive to both the empire's needs and its enduring symbols. It is said that some of the coins minted in her era had slight variations in design, perhaps reflecting artistic experimentation or deliberate messages for specific audiences. These anomalies spark curiosity, and historians still debate their true origins and purposes. Perhaps a mint master sought to capture a personal flourish, or maybe an imperial order left a playful trace for future generations to ponder. As you wander deeper into the market area, the silent stalls hint at lives of quiet diligence. Crates of dried fruits, barrels of salted fish, and neat piles of textiles sit undisturbed, their colors softened in the evening glow. The coins scattered among them, once exchanged for goods and services, now seem like tiny mirrors of a vanished world. You imagine a young merchant counting the day's earnings, Zoe's face smiling on each coin, a gentle reminder that wealth and governance often intertwine with artistry and symbolism. The reflective surfaces capture the lantern's glow, dancing like little fireflies trapped in metal. It's almost comical to consider that coins could sparkle more than a dozen candles. Yet somehow this city always manages to balance practicality with understated charm. A small anecdote whispers through history. Some coins from this period were rumored to have been melted and reminted during emergencies, creating subtle inconsistencies in weight or shine. Traders and citizens noticed, of course, but life continued with graceful adaptability. Even in these minute details, the sisters' influence seems present, guiding the subtle hand of order and adaptation. You run your fingers lightly across a coin's engraved edge, feeling the embossed curves of Zoe's profile and imagining the careful hand of an artisan centuries ago. The faint, almost imperceptible inscriptions along the rim tell stories of authority and tradition, of a city attentive to both power and artistry. The silent markets themselves are full of hidden stories. Tiny courtyards between stalls offer spaces where lovers once whispered, children played with scraps of cloth, and street performers practiced quietly for the next day. You notice an abandoned scale, its brass surface gleaming softly in lamplight, and consider how merchants measured grains and coins with precision and care. Some historians still debate the full scale of Zoe's personal involvement in these civic and economic details. Did she walk through these very markets herself, observing her citizens, or did she leave these tasks entirely to advisors? The thought drifts like smoke in the calm night, unhurried and gentle dot further down a narrow lane. You come across a tiny fountain with a basin shaped like a lion's head, likely overlooked by most passers-by. A single golden coin rests in the shallow water, its reflection rippling in soft waves. The fountain, like the coins, quietly carries history, whispering stories of trade, loyalty, and subtle governance. Even small denominations of currency, exchanged daily, bore reminders of the sisters' careful guidance and the empire's enduring rhythm. It is delightful to consider that every coin passing hands might have sparked fleeting admiration or quiet reflection on the stability that Zoe and Theodora provided. You pause at a corner where a stall once sold rare silks, noticing the intricate patterns on the remaining fabrics. The texture is almost like a conversation across centuries, connecting you to the hands that wove, measured, and admired such beauty. Coins once exchanged for these items traveled back and forth, linking artisans and patrons, citizens, and rulers in a gentle network of quiet interdependence. A subtle humor lingers in imagining a young apprentice trying to count too many coins at once, nearly tipping the entire scale. Fortunately, no one ever recorded who caused the miniature chaos dot as your walk continues. The hush of the night sharpens your awareness of Byzantium's subtle details. The soft echo of your footsteps along the stone walls mingles with the imagined clink of coins exchanged long ago. Golden coins, now silent, serve as tangible witnesses to the passage of time. Each one carries the weight of authority, trade, and the careful balance of power that Zoe and Theodora maintained with quiet wisdom. In their stillness, these objects remind you that history often resides in the smallest things, humble yet profound. Even in apparent silence, the city hums with life that is invisible yet perceptible. You sense that the empty markets are only paused, awaiting the day when sounds of barter and conversation will rise again, much like memory, lying dormant until gently stirred. You pause by a small pile of abandoned coins, letting the calm of the courtyard settle around you. Each coin, each vacant stall, Each quiet corner conveys continuity and care, a world unfolding with deliberate patience. The gentle rhythm of Byzantium at night guides your thoughts into reflection. You see that these coins, though modest in size, embody far more than wealth. They carry traces of human intention, the subtle exercise of influence, and the enduring presence of two sisters whose lives shaped the course of an empire. In this moment, you feel a quiet connection to the city, to its history, and to the timeless persistence of power exercised with wisdom and grace. You step softly into the forgotten halls of the palace, where time seems to have slowed to a near whisper. Dust particles float lazily in the shafts of fading sunlight that filter through tall, narrow windows, and the cool stone beneath your feet carries a quiet, ancient weight. The air is tinged with the faint scent of aged wood and lingering incense, a reminder that these corridors once resonated with the footsteps of empresses and advisors alike. Every creak of a floorboard seems magnified, yet strangely comforting, as if the walls themselves are breathing, sharing secrets only patient ears can perceive. Occasionally, a solitary echo sounds like a whisper from centuries past, coaxing you to move carefully and attentively. You might even imagine a stray cat slipping silently through, startling no one, but adding its own soft punctuation to the slow narrative of the palace, because clearly, feline drama always finds a way into history. These halls, now silent, were once alive with the presence of Zoe and Theodora, whose influence extended far beyond the immediate corridors. They shaped the politics and ceremonies of the empire, subtly steering decisions while maintaining an air of serene composure. Documents and proclamations were carried along these very paths, while emissaries and courtiers exchanged hushed counsel. The sisters' impact on succession, governance, and the careful balance of noble factions is reflected in the careful layout and enduring grandeur of these spaces. Historians still debate the exact extent of their guidance behind the scenes, but it is clear that their presence, whether direct or symbolic, resonated throughout the palace like a persistent, gentle echo dot. As you move deeper, you notice the walls, adorned with faded tapestries depicting scenes of imperial life, battle, and divine favor. Each thread, though muted now, once conveyed the grandeur and authority of Byzantium, reminding visitors of the sisters' subtle yet potent hand in shaping culture. You brush your fingers lightly along the textured surface and feel the centuries press softly into your touch. It's remarkable to consider that these tapestries may have been rearranged, preserved, or quietly restored under Zoe's careful direction, although no record definitively confirms her involvement. Even so, imagining her choosing the placement of threads or colors brings a curious smile, like picturing a meticulous artist choosing paintbrushes while humming an ancient lullaby. The marble floors reflect a softened, golden light from sconces mounted along the walls. The soft clinking of coins in distant chambers long emptied seems like a ghostly nod to economic matters once overseen by the empresses. Zoe and Theodora, both skilled in maintaining the delicate equilibrium of power, likely walked these floors in thoughtful contemplation, considering treaties, imperial edicts, and subtle signals to allies and rivals. Their careful attention ensured that each decision, no matter how small, reinforced the stability of Byzantium. You can almost hear the quiet shuffle of sandals, perhaps a scribe delivering a report, reminding you that even the most powerful figures were dependent on the flow of information through these silent halls. Hidden chambers and alcoves invite moments of curiosity. You pause at a carved doorway, imagining the discussions that once took place behind it. Some rooms may have hosted intimate counsel, while others contained only the gentle hum of maintenance staff quietly tending to the palace's needs. Oddly enough, a few historians still debate whether certain halls were primarily used for ceremonial purposes or for the private musings of the empresses. The ambiguity allows your imagination to wander freely, and you take a slow breath, letting the mystery of past intentions fill the space like a comforting fog. You notice faint traces of decorative mosaics along the ceiling, tiny pieces of colored stone that once shimmered brilliantly under torchlight. Each fragment, painstakingly placed, symbolizes both the artistic achievement of the era and the quiet authority of Zoe and Theodora in fostering cultural refinement. The mosaics might have celebrated military victories, divine favor, or family lineage, though many scenes remain partially obscured by time. Historians still debate whether certain figures in these mosaics were meant to depict Zoe herself, or whether artistic conventions simply favored generalized female imagery of imperial virtue. The uncertainty adds a layer of gentle intrigue, much like discovering an old photograph in a drawer without knowing exactly who is smiling back. Through a distant archway, you catch a glimpse of a spiral staircase leading to upper galleries, where windows offer sweeping views of Constantinople. The city beyond seems both alive and serene, a contrast to the hushed reverence inside these walls. Trade, water fountains, and bustling streets exist beyond this quiet palace interior. Yet here, the sound is muted, as if the building itself insists on maintaining reflection and composure. Even a passing breeze, drifting through cracked windows, carries the whispers of history, brushing against your skin with a tender, ephemeral touch. In some rooms, ornate chairs remain, draped with faded textiles, suggesting once lively meetings of advisors, family, and ceremonial guests. You imagine Zoe seated in one of them, reviewing petitions or offering counsel, while Theodora's calm gaze reassured both allies and rivals. These chairs, though inanimate, hold the memory of authority exercised with subtle wisdom. You lean against a cool stone column, appreciating the way shadows and light play across the floors, almost as if the palace itself is breathing gently, guiding your steps through the echoes of past power. The long corridors eventually lead you to a quiet chamber where a faint, musty scent hints at papers and scrolls once stored here. You pause to listen, and your footsteps merge with imagined rustles of parchment, faint echoes of scribes and courtiers carefully chronicling the empress's reign. It is remarkable to consider that even in these quiet, unassuming spaces, Zoe and Theodora's influence guided decisions and succession plans that shaped generations. The sisters' legacy is woven into the very stones, tapestries, and coins that silently persist. You finally rest against a cool marble wall, letting the soft murmur of empty halls fill your senses. Every echo, every subtle detail, feels like a gentle invitation to reflect, to breathe slowly, and to appreciate the calm persistence of history. Even in the absence of sound, the palace speaks in quiet tones of wisdom, guidance, and enduring care. The forgotten halls, once bustling with life and strategy, now offer you a slow, gentle passage through time, where each step is cushioned by the knowledge that history moves patiently, softly, and with remarkable grace. You wander slowly through the softly lit galleries, where the timeless murals of Byzantium cover every wall, each telling stories that stretch across centuries. The colors, though mellowed by time, retain a gentle warmth, as if the pigments themselves exhale the calm of ages past. Gold leaf glimmers faintly in the corners, catching stray beams of light like shy fireflies, while deeper blues and reds suggest quiet evenings and distant sunsets over Constantinople. You notice how each mural seems to breathe slowly, a heartbeat of artistry embedded in stone and plaster. Occasionally, a tiny crack or faded edge becomes an accidental smile, like the city itself winking through the centuries. These murals celebrate both divine and earthly lives, capturing emperors, empresses, saints, and anonymous citizens with equal care. Some panels depict Zoe and Theodora standing serenely in flowing robes, their faces calm yet commanding, While historians still debate which murals truly portray the sisters, the gentle authority and poise of the figures convey the essence of their influence. You imagine Zoe walking along these walls, perhaps approving color schemes or discussing iconographic details with artists, while Theodora might have offered quiet counsel about symbolism and religious accuracy. Art and power blend here seamlessly, like the perfect mixing of honey into tea, creating a warmth that lingers long after the eyes have moved on. The artistry is meticulous, each brushstroke deliberate yet effortless, giving life to sacred scenes, imperial ceremonies, and symbolic landscapes. Angels lean gracefully, saints hold scrolls with thoughtful expressions, and mythical creatures peek from decorative borders, their presence both whimsical and solemn. Some murals have hidden details, tiny animals, abstract motifs, or playful patterns tucked into corners, as if the artists left gentle jokes or personal signatures. You smile softly at the thought, imagining a modern-day muralist sneaking a cat or a tiny cup of coffee into a sacred scene, whispering humor into history. Walking closer, you notice areas where restoration has been necessary, patches of plaster blending almost invisibly with the original. It reminds you that history, even in its most enduring forms, requires care, attention, and patience. Some murals might have been commissioned personally by Zoe or Theodora as part of their effort to reinforce both cultural legacy and political authority. Historians still debate the degree to which the sisters directly influenced the visual arts, yet it feels certain that their presence, quiet or overt, echoed through these chambers like a gentle hymn. The murals not only capture people, but the very atmosphere of Byzantine life. Soft clouds drift above golden cityscapes, rivers glimmer under muted sunlight, and palatial interiors glow with imagined candlelight. Each scene invites you to linger, to notice the gentle interplay of shadows and color, the way light falls differently as your eyes adjust. In these quiet hours, the murals seem almost alive, breathing with the calm rhythms of the city outside the gallery walls. Occasionally, the brushstrokes form delicate patterns that remind you of lace or woven fabrics, as if the artists were playfully merging architecture, textile, and painting into a single, harmonious experience. Some murals depict historical events, ceremonies, processions, and moments of diplomacy. You imagine Zoe and Theodora watching from nearby balconies or whispered corners, knowing that their decisions, their composure, shaped what unfolds in paint. It is curious to consider how much influence they wielded, how many choices were reflected in the precise gestures of figures on a wall, or in the selection of symbols for authority and piety. Historians still debate whether these artistic details were purely ornamental or intentionally crafted to communicate subtle political messages. As you observe, the uncertainty feels gentle, like a mystery to savor rather than a puzzle to solve. The hallways echo softly as you step, each footfall a quiet metronome guiding your journey along centuries of artistry. Occasionally, a breeze drifts through a nearby window, rustling the delicate dust motes that float like tiny lanterns in the muted sunlight. You pause, letting the sound mingle with your breath, and imagine the palace alive with the faint rustle of silk robes, whispers of courtiers, and the soft laughter of sisters who once guided the empire with calm authority. The murals seem to respond, their colors deepening in the warmth of your imagination, reminding you that art, like history, is a living conversation between past and present. You notice small, subtle symbols scattered throughout olive branches. Keys, stars each carrying meaning both sacred and political. Some might allude to peace treaties, alliances, or divine favor, while others remain enigmatic. The blending of story, symbolism, and aesthetic beauty creates a meditative rhythm, almost as if the murals themselves are inviting you to breathe slowly, to let each image settle in your mind like gentle waves on a quiet shore. Even the spaces Between scenes are meaningful, as though silence itself has been painted into the walls, a soft counterpoint to the vivid details of history. Pausing at the end of the gallery, you lean against a stone column and take in the entirety of the murals. Before you, the muted gold, the soft blues, the delicate reds, they form a tapestry of time, a slow, serene reflection of an empire shaped by two remarkable sisters. Even if the figures remain debated, the feelings they inspire are undeniable: calm authority, gentle wisdom, and the enduring presence of creativity guided by purpose. You imagine leaving the gallery, the images lingering in your mind like a gentle lullaby, the echo of brushstrokes mingling with the soft sounds of the palace beyond. They, timeless murals of Byzantium, in their quiet beauty, allow you to move slowly, observe deeply, and feel the patient passage of centuries. Every color, every line, every subtle smile in stone and paint carries the essence of Zoe and Theodora's reign. They remind you that history is not only recorded in texts or coins, but also in the gentle, enduring whispers of art, waiting for patient eyes to notice and appreciate. In these halls you linger, your breathing slowing, your mind softening, as if the very walls themselves are guiding you toward calm reflection and quiet rest. You walk slowly along the broad expanse of Constantinople's city walls, your fingers brushing the textured stone, feeling the centuries held in its rough surface. Twilight descends gently over the city, and the warm glow of the setting sun caresses the battlements, stretching long, soft shadows across the winding streets below. From this height, the faint lapping of the golden horn drifts upward, each ripple a quiet murmur that blends with the distant calls of merchants closing their shops. The air is a gentle mix of sea salt, warm masonry, and the faint hint of herbs growing in hidden courtyards, a scent that seems to hold centuries of stories in its embrace. You chuckle quietly, picturing a cat chasing its own shadow along the aisle. Walls a small, enduring gesture of life amid the grandeur of history. The city feels suspended between day and night, caught in a fleeting pause. The walls curve gracefully along the contours of the land, protective arms encircling the life within. Here, Zoe's influence lingers, subtle yet palpable, as though her calm authority still moved through the quiet streets. You imagine palace, corridors alive with the flicker of lamps and the quiet movements of attendants, then contrast it with the hush of the high walls, feeling your own pace slow to match the city's evening rhythm. Historians still debate the location of her final resting place, and the uncertainty lends a layer of reverent mystery to the scene. Standing there, you sense not only the weight of history, but also the delicate, persistent pulse of Constantinople, a city that has always balanced the grandeur of empire with the quiet beauty of its everyday moments. The towers along the walls catch the last light, glinting softly against the deepening blue of the sky. Shadows stretch like slow-moving dancers across the stones, and you notice small vines that have crept up through the cracks, their leaves trembling in the gentle breeze. Theodora's memory seems to linger here as well, a reminder of her careful guidance and devotion. Some say she watched over the city from these heights, keeping a quiet, protective vigilance. Though her voice is long silenced, the echoes of her influence feel tangible, carried by the cool evening air that brushes your cheeks. As darkness deepens, lanterns begin to glow along the inner courtyards and winding alleys, casting pools of warm light on cobblestones. The city breathes slowly beneath the night sky, and you find yourself imagining Zoe's procession, her presence on the walls, a symbol of continuity and quiet strength. You notice the subtle detail of moss growing along some stones, evidence of time's soft persistence, and wonder how many hands have traced these walls over centuries. Even the distant church bells seem to chime more slowly, as if to lull the city itself into a gentle rest. The blend of history and quiet creates a meditative space, A gentle reminder that time flows softly when observed patiently. You pause at a corner, gazing over the parapets as rooftops glow softly under the lantern light. In the distance, the Bosphorus shimmers faintly, catching hints of orange and purple from the evening sky. Ships that once teemed with trade now rest quietly, their masts swaying gently in the breeze. Some vanished over the years, leaving behind only whispered tales and half-remembered legends. A soft smile forms as you imagine merchants sharing stories of vessels lost to fog, their laughter mingling with the gentle lapping of the water. The scene feels suspended in time, a quiet intersection of history, memory, and the city's enduring. Rhythm. The walls themselves seem to exhale in the cooling air, each stone a keeper of countless moments. Zoe's final days, her quiet passing, and her interment in the monastery are shrouded in gentle mystery. You imagine a procession moving softly through the halls, candles flickering in dim corridors, attendants speaking in hushed tones, and the sister's influence touching each gesture. The precise location of Zoe's tomb remains uncertain, yet the reverent hush of the city conveys a sense of peace, as if the city itself remembers and honors her in its calm evening rhythm. Historians still debate where Zoe's final resting place lies, and the uncertainty adds a comforting, almost lullaby-like quality to the quiet night. The air grows cooler as stars begin to dot the sky, their light faint yet persistent, like soft memories scattered across the heavens. You trace constellations slowly, letting the night draw your attention outward and inward simultaneously. The walls, the rooftops, the distant minarets, and the golden domes all seem to merge into a gentle panorama, a timeless cityscape painted in muted colors and whispered history. You imagine Theodora standing at a window somewhere within the palace, looking out over the same expanse, her presence invisible yet enduring, offering calm guidance in moments both grand and subtle. Soft winds ripple through the empty streets, carrying with them the faint scent of incense and the lingering warmth of day. You can almost hear the muted chatter of citizens long past, their voices blending into the rustle of leaves and the distant waves. Each step along the walls is measured, unhurried, allowing you to absorb the full serenity of the moment. Shadows stretch and blend, lanterns flicker gently, and the city settles slowly, as if preparing to drift into a quiet dream. The calm here is almost tangible, a gentle reminder that time, though fleeting, can be observed with patience and appreciation. Leaning against the parapet at the close of your walk, you feel the city exhale around you. Day's warmth fades into the gentle embrace of night, and you breathe deeply, sensing the steady rhythm of the walls, the distant shimmer of water, and the hushed life of Constantinople settling into quiet repose. The legacies of Zoe and Theodora linger softly in the evening air, not as grand spectacle, but as enduring, subtle presences woven into the city's pulse. Beneath the stars, the golden city rests, timeless and serene, its streets and walls, holding centuries of memory, courage, and calm, offering a tranquil pause for all who wander within its embrace. You drift along the quiet streets of Constantinople, now softened under the gentle glow of moonlight, each step echoing softly on worn stones. The city seems to breathe in tandem with your own rhythm, the distant murmur of the Bosphorus blending seamlessly with the occasional rustle of leaves. Every corner holds a trace of Zoe and Theodora, sisters whose influence once moved through these streets like a slow, purposeful current. Even centuries later, the subtle pulse of their legacy hums gently beneath the surface, inviting you to slow your thoughts and let the world soften around you. A small bird flutters across a rooftop, pausing for a moment as if to acknowledge your presence, and you smile at its unhurried grace, knowing that even in history, some creatures refuse to rush. You pause near the edge of the ancient aqueduct, listening to the faint trickle of water, its sound almost like a lullaby. The fountains that once served the palace gardens murmur quietly, sharing their long-kept secrets with anyone willing to linger in the stillness. You imagine Zoe walking here in her regal finery, her gown brushing lightly against the stones, her presence both commanding and tender. Historians still debate how much she influenced the city's quiet growth versus the grand public gestures. But here, in the hush of evening, the distinction seems less important than the enduring calm she left behind. You inhale the cool night air, scented faintly with jasmine and sea salt, feeling the gentle weight of centuries settling around you. The palace looms nearby, its domes and spires softened by the moon's silver glow. Lanterns in the courtyards flicker gently, reflecting like tiny stars in the still water of the fountains below. You imagine Theodora's silhouette moving among the columns, her steps measured and deliberate, her gaze thoughtful and steady. Some say she once wandered these halls in disguise, observing the quiet life of the city with a careful eye. The idea brings a smile to your lips. Even the most powerful often find solace in small, secret moments of solitude. The shadows stretch, long and calm across the marble floors, blending the present with memory, the living city with the gentle whispers of its past. You walk toward the outer walls, where the city meets the gentle lap of the sea. The moon casts a soft silver path across the water, and you follow it with your eyes, letting your mind float along its tranquil surface. Merchants' boats, once bustling with trade, now rest silently, their sails furled, rocking lightly in. The evening breeze. Some vanished mysteriously, leaving behind nothing but stories whispered by time and tide. The thought is strangely comforting, a reminder that the world holds its secrets quietly, and that wonder can live in the spaces we cannot fully understand. You take a slow, deep breath, feeling the calm settle through your shoulders and spine. The streets below hum with gentle echoes, the remnants of voices and footsteps long past. Each archway and window seems to hold a memory, and you walk as if the city itself is guiding you through a dream. You notice the golden mosaics of distant churches glimmering softly, reflecting the moonlight in quiet celebration of the city's enduring beauty. Historians still debate the extent to which Zoe and Theodora influenced the art and daily rhythm of Constantinople. But here, beneath the eternal sky, you feel their presence not in record or argument, but in the tender pulse of the city, a gentle reassurance that time, when observed patiently, can be both restful and kind. The gardens of the Imperial palace stretch before you, bathed in gentle lunar light. Statues and fountains stand in serene silence, and the soft fragrance of night-blooming flowers drifts through the air. You imagine the sisters walking here, their conversations hushed, their laughter rare but treasured. Perhaps Theodora once traced her fingers along the edges of a fountain, listening to the water ripple with quiet amusement. Perhaps Zoe paused to admire a single flower, its delicate petals a small grounding joy amid the weight of empire. Each imagined moment feels soft and real, a delicate bridge connecting the present to centuries long gone. You settle on a low stone bench near the palace wall, letting the gentle night wind play through your hair. The distant sounds of the city are faint, a soft percussion beneath the lull of the waves. The Bosphorus glimmers like liquid silver, the domes and spires of Hagia Sophia glowing faintly under the stars. You imagine the city as a living dreamscape, each light and shadow a quiet echo of countless lives that have passed through these streets. Zoe and Theodora's legacy feels less like power and more like a gentle hum, a reminder that even the grandest actions can leave a soothing, enduring mark on the world. As you lean back, the night air wrapping around you like a soft blanket. The city seems to breathe with you. Your eyelids grow heavy, each heartbeat slowing to match the tranquil rhythm of the water and the whispering wind. The gentle murmur of fountains, the soft sway of leaves, the faint glimmer of lantern light, they all blend into a single lullaby, a serenade of the past and present mingled. You feel a comforting warmth, a sense that time itself has slowed, and that the whispers of history are here to cradle you softly. With your mind and body gently unwinding, allow the quiet legacy of Zoe and Theodora to settle deep within. You. Let the golden city dissolve into the soft silver night. Let the distant waves rock you into gentle ease, and let the echoes of history lull you into a calm, restorative rest. Every breath is a soft reminder of the continuity of life, of the quiet power of memory, and of the gentle embrace of time. Close your eyes slowly, letting the moonlight guide you, the fountains sing softly, and the city wrap its ancient arms around your dreams. Sleep is near, waiting to carry you on soft tides of calm and wonder. End of script. Thank you for listening, everyone.